Alright, let's look at in section 4.4 to calculate the probability of a maybe, kind of give you a hint here. So with one method of a procedure called acceptance sampling, a sample of items is randomly selected without replacement. Without replacement means that each event is dependent because, in other words, we draw something and after we draw it, we don't put it back. So in other words, the first thing we draw is dependent. When we draw the next ones, dependent based on what we drew first. So without replacement is typically a dependent of. A company has just manufactured 1,561 CDs and 209 are defective. If 10 of these CDs are randomly selected for testing, what is the probability that the entire batch will be? Well, let's look at that 5% guideline because this is such a small value to a. So the sample percentage of the population, 10, are randomly selected out of the 1,561. This is actually smaller than the 5% to an independent event. Okay, even though when you sample with replacement, that is a dependent event, remember that if what you're sampling is so small to the actual entire population, then you can use the independent event, meaning that we just multiply probabilities. So the probability the entire batch is accepted, meaning the number of good CDs divided by the total number of selected. There's a total of 1,561 CDs and 209 are defective, which means if I subtract those two values, that tells me how many are actually good. And the denominator, remember that's the total that we choose. This gives the probability that I choose one CD and it was good. There's 1,352 good ones out of the total batch. Fine, but we want to choose 10, not 1. Well, remember, if the events are independent, and we made this independent based off of that 5% rule, then you just simply multiply each one of the probabilities. Being independent, the probabilities does not change. This probability does not depend on what happened here. Or the same thing as if I'm doing 10 of these to the 10th power, and I'm rounding this to the nearest. Of course, you can put this in your calculator like this, where you use this key, meaning exponent.